So for this part of the lecture, we're going to be discussing the key light. Again, the key light is going to be the light source that is providing the main bit of illumination for your scene. Um, if it's an outdoor daytime scene, we're thinking it's the sun, the sunlight. At nighttime, it's the moon. If it's an interior scene, you're looking at the most prominent artificial light source, like a lamp or a ceiling light or something. Whatever is providing the scene with the most or the majority of your overall lighting is considered your key light. For this demo, we're just gonna do like as if this were, you know, let's say an outdoor, just a simple daytime setup. Later, we're going to be doing some different lighting where we're matching to a background plate. But for now, we're just giving Simon a brief setup here. So we're gonna with that in mind, we're gonna start to position his key light. The key light position is of the utmost importance because other than providing the main illumination source, your key light is going to define the character's volume and its shape more than any other light in your scene will. Um, I can tell you from experience and from doing this, if your key light is poorly positioned, you are going to be fighting an uphill battle throughout the entire process. You have to ensure that your key light's in a good spot. That's going to promote, again, good shaping, and because ultimately it'll, that extra bit of setup at the beginning when you're first setting up your key light. Because again, you always want to set up your key light first. Um, Once you have that set and in a good position, I find that that extra little bit of prep work ahead of time saves you a lot in the long run. So something you should know about Simon initially, off the bat, before we start working with him, is that his skin texture or skin material is made from mental rays subsurface scattering material to give it some extra depth and fleshiness to it. But what that does mean is that we cannot render him using uh, Maya software. We have to use mental ray. So normally when you render him, you'd expect to see something like this. But if you use Maya software, you'll actually just get that. You'll just get his eyes. Um, so just be aware of that. You may get his teeth showing up too, but just be aware that if you're seeing this, it's because your renderer is set to Maya software. To change it, for the render view, you click here and switch to mental ray. For the overall render, you either will select it's the same figure, the same place. This little dialog box back in your main window, or or this box here. Um, I'm sorry, these icons here and here will take you into your render settings, and you'll just want to switch it from Maya software. You want to switch it to Mental Ray. Ah, Mental Ray. And then for our initial testing, we'll want the quality to because again we're nowhere near being done with this. So we want to make sure that we go to a default or a preview setting by default, and then also although we know that our maybe what we want our aspect ratio to be, um, we don't have to render at this full resolution. We can drop this down to like 480 or something. Basically about a third, or you can do half or a third of what your full final res is just when you're doing this initial testing. So now that we've got that all set up, we will let's start positioning this key light. So like I said before earlier, that one of the things that I feel, and this is a personal feeling, is that if again, a little extra time at setup will go a long way in will actually save you time in the long run. So taking some extra prep time to set up the key light will save you a bit in the end. So with that in mind, I like to I'm going to show you a technique that I like to use. I don't always have the time to do it, but when I do, I like to create a wedge the spotlight's rotation around the character to help aid me uh, in in the final positioning of the key light. So to start, I like to create a spotlight. Just select any part of the character here. After we look through the selected, hit F to get it in the full view, and that'll allow you to kind of pivot around the character. And now, now to position our sunlight, because again, we're just going to kind of simulate a generic daytime outdoor scene. So we want to, let's just position the key light somewhere here. And again, we'll kind of want to get a little bit of Rembrandt type lighting on them, give good shaping, so we'll go ahead and dial in this key light, the spotlight a little bit as our key. Again, we kind of want to center it around the character that we're lighting to maximize the number of rays. We know that since this is our main key light, we're going to want shadows turned on. So we'll just go ahead and use ray trace shadows for now and leave all this to 0. We'll work on shadow softness later, but for now we'll just, since we're just running this wedge test, we'll just we'll make it render as efficiently as possible. So now we'll go back to this perspective view so we can kind of see where we are. So again, we've got the sunlight way out here, and we want to create a setup where we're rotating it around the character. So in order to do that, if we hit E, which is our rotation value, you'll see that it's kind of a wonky angle, and we want to have it centered around the plane or the world space, not this local space that we've rotated this light to be at. So the fastest, and I know there's probably other ways to do this, but the fastest way that I can think to reorient that is to place that spotlight in a group. So with it selected, if you go to edit group, or you can just hit the G key, basically now your key light will exist as part of a subgroup, and anytime you create a group, that group's pivot point will be set at to default is 0, 0, 0 with no rotation values or anything else. So with that in mind, we want to take that group's new pivot point and adjust it so it's centered, so it's focused on our character. So we'll hit the insert key, or if you're using like a Mac keyboard or a Mac laptop, you'll hit the FN key and the left arrow, hold down FN and hit the left arrow key. This will change your icon, from your, before we had it at the translate, hit insert, it'll bring us back there. So now we just want to position this in, basically inside our character's head. It's always tough to see when you're in the perspective window, so I like to come to this window, the 4 views, and just get it, get it lined up in a couple of them here, so that we can. You can see. So yeah, so it looks like within these 2 views we're gonna, we've got it positioned pretty well. So let's go back to our faraway perspective, and now when we have this key light selected, because again we created this group, so now it exists within this group. So now we have this selected. We will begin to. I'll show you guys how it's rotating. So again, we've got the group there. As soon as we start to rotate this, you can see it's a small little dot because I made the key light far away, but you can see it. Believe me when I say it's rotating. In fact, let's do this instead. Let's go to our closer perspective. We'll hit the 7 key to get a little more interactive, and we'll change this rotation value to 0, and you can see it's kind of that upper left, and then if we rotate around to 180, it's back behind him, so you can see the lights kind of spinning around. Now what we want to do is we want to create a render where that light is spinning around. So what we want to do is set a couple keyframes on it. So we'll go to frame 1, and at frame 1 we will set this light value. We'll set a key at the 0 point. Then we'll go to frame 73, and I'll explain 73 here in a second, and change this to 360 around the Y, again because we're just going to be rotating it around the Y axis. And now anywhere between 1 and 73, you can see the key light is now kind of spinning around as we animate through those values. Now, I'm a little anal about this, just because well, what happens is when you set these keys, the default is that Maya wants to help the animator by creating some kind of soft transitions in and out when you're creating these keys. So you can kind of see it here. So basically what's happening is when you're rotating, which, because you went from 1 to 73, which is 72 frames, over 360 degrees, so it should be a nice clean 5-degree rotation per frame. But as you can see, it's not quite doing that. And the reason why is again, if you go up to Window and then Animation Editors, Graph Editor, with your with that group selected, this is our our group's Y rotation. And as you can see, by default, there's just kind of like a slow ramp in to it and slow ramp out. So I just select those 2 points, hit the linear tangent one, and that'll create a more linear animation values between these 2 points. So again, now when we go, we can see that it's we're 39 frames in, so we're at 139 times 5 is 195. So we are good. Yeah, so now what we would do is we would go back to our render settings and set up a quick render that would take us from frame 1 to frame 73, maybe just spitting out some JPEGs and going from there. So it just so happens that I may have already done that. It's like a cooking show. It's like, and look, we've got the quiche ready right here. So so again, this is the resulting image, just a series of JPEGs that the light rotates around them. And the thing I really like about this is that although we're using this to position our key light, it can be used for many other things too. We can use it when it comes time to position our rim lights. When later on when I talk about eye lighting, we'll want eye dings in there. So this will be good for getting those little white specky highlights on the eyes. And it also forces me, or it allows me to, because one of the things is that again, I thought that this first position was going to be best, and what I can see now is that that may not be the case. It's actually kind of, he looks a little flat to me at that angle. So we're gonna rotate it, go through the images I kind of rotated around, but as I'm doing that, I can start to see that actually on this side of him, we're getting some nice things happening. It's like, at this frame, let's see what frame this is. It's frame 29. So at frame 29, we start to see some good shaping crawling across his nose. Again, Simon doesn't have much of a nose, so we're not gonna, you wouldn't expect to see a lot of that Rembrandt triangle, but you can see a little bit here. And I think actually that might be good. And again, when we're creating our wedge, we have to kind of know the height or the altitude of our light before we can start that. But again, I think that's kind of nice. Let's see. Let's keep going though. See what else we got. Oh, this is a nice little rim light for this side. We soften up that shadow so it's not so hard on down here. Be nice for a rim light. Now we come around to the other side. Now this isn't bad too. I'm starting to see things like some light creeping across onto the other eye, We're getting some decent separation from, the different elements of his eyelid to his eyebrow. That could be kind of nice too. I don't know. I really like this other side though. I think this is really nice in here. Right there, yeah, because we're getting some nice shaping across his eyebrow, across his eyelid, and down through here, and again we're getting that nice rim. I think I'm going to keep this. So I'm going to go back to. So now that we've kind of so I said okay, that's where I kind of want my key light to be, and of course we can adjust it from there. Then what I do is I go back to my I go back to my light, and in this case actually I'm going to use the light that I created earlier, and so that's this light right here, and again we've got its rotation value. I'll get this off so you can see. So again, we know that we liked it at frame 29, so I like to go back to frame 29 and set it there. And then I like to keep this light in here for reference. So we'll call this the the spotlight is now the key wedged light, and we'll call it key wedge group here. So we'll always have it in our scene. And now the main thing is that we just want to make sure that our key light, now that this is just a reference and we're not actually using, we want to make sure that illuminate by default and all of these are turned off. So because we want to maintain this this rotation, but instead, so to create the key light right there, I just take that light and hit Control D to duplicate it, and now that creates a second light here within the same group. But if I middle mouse click, I can drag that out of the group, and since we're now out of the group, it won't rotate around with this one anymore. So now that one's kind of locked in place. So now instead of key wedge 1, this is our key light, and now this key light we can say illuminate by default. Go back in, and we render it. And we should get a similar, pretty much the same setup as what we're seeing here. So let's see. Slow. Ooh. So yeah, so that's generally, if I have the time, that is generally how I like to do my, oh geez, that one's not very similar at all. But either way, I'll get it back into this place. But you can see how doing that is an effective method. So we'll get this position back into here. I'll soften up the shadows a little bit, give it some color so it's more daytime. And then when we come back, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about using some fill lights and rim lights and some of the secondary lights as well.